Welcome to the paranormal. Everything you're about to see, and my interpretation of it, is seen by the mainstream narrative, and especially science, as pseudoscience. Everything they claim can be easily explained. There's nothing supernatural or paranormal about any of it. The well-known professor of psychology, Richard Wiseman, claims of one thing he is absolutely certain: that paranormal phenomena does not exist. It's a ludicrous statement for a layman to make, let alone somebody in his position who should know better. You cannot claim that the paranormal does not exist. You can only claim that as far as you're concerned, you have not been privy to sufficient credible evidence to convince you of its reality. But you cannot say that it definitely doesn't exist. James Randi, now deceased, offered $1 million of someone else's money to anyone who could prove the existence of the paranormal. It would be relatively simple to do if science looked at the subject objectively. If we took the funding out of science and we took away some of the ridiculous criteria that is required for something to be considered scientific. One of those is that something has to be repeatable. Well, this content that you're about to see is certainly repeatable. You can gather this kind of content on a daily basis. But if you don't accept the initial hypothesis, if you look at the first piece of evidence and immediately dismiss it, repeating it does no good. So science prefers to turn its back on it and ignore it and brush it off by saying that it's all just normal and natural. I've got it all wrong. Rods are just insects. Orbs are just moisture and dust particles. Everything else is just pareidolia. I'm seeing and hearing things that are not there. It's all a matter of misinterpretation, confusion in the mind, and that's sufficient. Most people accept that because it is being told to us by people in lofty positions with degrees and professorships, people out of the university system, scientists, doctors. Why wouldn't you believe these people? Well, because they're lazy. It's far simpler to dismiss something than to actually research it properly. Aside of that, of course, there is an agenda to suppress all such information. They want us to believe that this is all there is. Everything can be experienced with the five senses. If you can't see it, smell it, taste it, hear it, or touch it, then it cannot possibly exist other than the things we already know about. Infrared, ultraviolet, a dog whistle, for example. We can't hear it because it's not within our hearing range, but we don't dismiss it. We don't say, because we can't hear it, it doesn't exist. There is an agenda to hide, suppress and disguise everything you're about to see. There are worlds operating alongside and within our world. Different energies, different realms, different vibrations. We don't have to explain what everything is. It's easier for us to say what it isn't. What science claims it is, we can show that they are wrong. In fact, with rods and orbs, the mainstream narrative is accurate on some examples, just some. But they take a one-size-fits-all. It's easier if you're lazy, if you're being told to hide it and suppress it in this atheistical world where when you die, upon the death of the physical body, there's nothing, not even darkness. There's just nothing. Well, that is not true. People promoting that are liars. So, let's start by looking at orbs. Orbs are described by the mainstream narrative as being nothing more than dust particles and moisture droplets that are caught very close to the camera lens. And when the shutter is pressed, the flash illuminates and bounces off these microscopic objects. As I said, in some cases this happens. If you take flash pictures in the snow or while it's raining, you will get these moisture droplet reflections. You can't take the real orb pictures during the day. You can take flash pictures all day long and you won't capture any. The ones that the mainstream narrative are talking about are often flat, misshapen discs. They're not the three-dimensional spheres that you're about to see. So this picture, for example, shows depth of field. In other words, orbs that are closer to the photographer than others. There are orbs on these pictures that are partly behind other objects, proving that they cannot be on top of the camera. They cannot be close to the camera. It's impossible. This is one of my favourite pictures. Look at the orbs in the distance. They're not close to the camera. They're not moisture droplets or dust particles, are they? This one is disappearing through the roof of a Nissen hut, and you can tell the size of it by looking at the bricks. And there's movement from right to left. How does dust and moisture explain that? They come in all colours. Some have anomalies, strange anomalies. Many of them contain what appear to be the heads and faces of humans. Sometimes, well, strange looking humanoids and animals, dogs, cats. There's the faces of babies and old ladies, men with moustaches and beards and glasses. Some of these we know are devas. This explanation appears in The Hidden Life in Freemasonry by Leadbetter. A great picture in that book. Shows orbs on the Masonic floor. Notice the movement of these orbs, and when they are caught on camera, on infrared video, and you can capture them actually moving rather than taking still shots, they move at an incredible rate, and there are lots of them, and they move up and down and left to right, and sometimes they go on the floor and sometimes high up in the heavens. Some are more opaque than others. We don't have to explain what they are. It's okay to say, actually, I don't really know what they are. But we can say that they are not what the mainstream narrative claims. This orb is behind the elbow and above the head. It's not close to the camera. That explanation, quite frankly, is nonsense. A cutaway look. We can just claim, well, it's not moisture, it's not dust, it's something that we can't explain. Science chooses to just look the other way and pretend everything is okay, everything is just fine and dandy, don't worry yourself about these things. But you see, we deserve an explanation. In fact, we deserve an explanation about all of the things that you're going to see on this video, and not just orbs. Orbs are just, well, one aspect of the paranormal. You see a clear face in the larger orb, and what appears to be an attached orb underneath. Dust? Moisture? Nah, I don't think so. after you. This orb, captured at Marston Moor, looks like it's on fire. Whilst taking photographs inside a disused railway tunnel in total darkness, I managed to record this image. I had no idea what it was, and I was about to delete it when at the last minute I decided to take a closer look, and I zoomed in on the image and searched around, and I was amazed at what I found. Churches and castles and ocean-going liners in a harbour and people, all viewed as if from the air, like we're peering down from above. Are these the memories of somebody? Is this a portal or a gateway into another world? I thought an orb could very well have come close to the camera lens, and I was able to take a picture inside. Was that what happened? This is a very strange image. This is what looks like a church with a square tower and a dome on top with a crucifix, and there's outbuildings, and it's all on a kind of curve, as though it's swirling. Whatever it is rotating round. Very strange indeed. That is a church, that is buildings somewhere in the world. This looks like a giant castle with crystal clear blue waters flowing under it and around it. There is a drawbridge with chains to the left-hand side. It has a black tiled roof with a crucifix. That particular castle is to the left-hand side. You can see the blue water. On the right, with the white water going through the square door, is a kind of large, black, darker representation. This looks like an angel with long flowing robes and wings that sweep back. He's looking to his left towards me. On the left-hand side, there is a man. He's got gingery coloured hair, fair to gingery. He's got a black shirt on, short sleeves. He's holding on to something, and he's wearing jeans and either brown or black shoes. What is he doing? I don't know. Has this man just died? And is this where he's ended up? It looks as though there is something in front of him that is holding what looks like a skull, and he's holding this skull up to the face of the man. I have no idea what this image represents, but this angel is overseeing the business. All of this and lots more was contained within that initial image, the white swirling image that I very nearly deleted. Love, you see, is the most important energy above all others. It's the supreme energy that one must have in the heart. And this figure appeared one night in Walsall while I was out taking pictures in the dark. Huge figure, almost godlike, and you can see the arm and the elbow joint there to the right hand side, and it's holding out a heart. You can see the hand You can see the thumb. You can see this small, tiny, tiny orb between the hand and the heart. This is symbolic. This is the image turned around, so you can see the hand with the thumb and the heart. This is a message to me, and indeed to you. We are supposed to look at this symbol, this message that I got on that night, captured forever by the camera, and translate it. The Egyptians said, when you die, your heart is weighed with the feather. If it outweighs the feather, then you're not going to ascend. And we know that our souls ascend after the death of the physical body, well, because they tell us. When we ask them, what are you still doing here? They tell us, we're ascending. We're going up through the spheres. What are you all doing here, anyway? Hi. What are you doing at Conisbrough Castle? Why are you still here? This is just a random bit of film that I decided to take of some looming storm clouds, and what appears in them is a very, very distinct face or head of a human or humanoid. Looks almost like a hologram. Who knows? If you watch the space, the face appears as the clouds gradually roll forward. On the original film, the face just, well, peters out. Very interesting indeed. Clouds, in fact, often contain images. I can't explain it, nor should I have to, nor should you have to. We just have to accept that there are things that we just don't get. We just don't understand. Appears to have a beard, and you can see teeth, the nose, the eyes, the ear, the profile. Just take it as is. All of the elements have a spirit. Sylphs and nymphs and gnomes. The one for fire is the little fire lizard, the salamander, that has to be there, has to be present for fire to exist. Is this an image captured of a roaring fire and the salamander perched on the very edge? On the original photograph, you can even see a little eye on the head. Here we burn rubbish, but we have a visitor. Someone is looking out from the fire. A man, a demon in fact. He is wearing on his head a skull cap with a crescent moon on it. He has what appears to be a pig's snout and a double chin, and he's looking straight at me, taking the picture, and he has a wry smile, a grinning fire demon. Indeed. The word demon, of course, can be split. D and mon. D precedes what I would refer to as falling words: death, decline, demote, depreciate. And mon, of course, is from Monday, or the moon's day. So demon, those who fall from the moon. I take pictures out of cars. Whenever I'm travelling, I take random shots, 3 at a time, bang, 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 using the multi-shot. This is the first image captured, just randomly driving down the road. Nothing much on it really, is there? But when you think how quickly the pictures are taken on these cameras, and how quickly this image actually manifests. Yes. You see, this week was a strange week. It was some years ago now, and I captured 4 of these creatures through the week. And they appear to be almost a cross between a gigantic snake and almost like a dragon type creature with an armoured tail, a bit like perhaps dragon is not the right word, maybe a crocodile, cross between a crocodile type creature with a gigantic reptilian serpent head with fangs. Really not nice to look at, and I wouldn't want to come across one. But they appear to be patrolling this lower earthly realm. And I think about the Harry Potter film and the basilisk, and these creatures from mythology, and one wonders, well, where did they get the idea from? Because clearly they exist, and they're not very nice to look at. The thought of coming across one of these, because that's a gigantic snake type creature. Oh boy. This derelict house I photographed every day as I drove past, and I captured all kinds of paranormal phenomena. On this one, if you look in the top left window there, you can see the daylight shining through the roof and the ceiling in the bedroom. And in the lower right pane there is what appears to be a nurse dressed in Queen Alexandra nursing uniform. She has a bonnet on. Standing next to her is a rather tall man with a ruff around his neck. She's looking up at him and smiling. I found out, by the way, when I did some research about this property, that this house was used as a hospital, a recuperation home for soldiers that had been injured in the First World War. They were returned here to recuperate. You see, if you don't believe in fairies and elves, I don't blame you. You see, I don't just believe in them, I know they exist. I have so many photographs of these little tiny entities that I can't help but reach the conclusion that they are really there, and this is why they're in children's books. This is an example, as I'm out walking with my two of my grandchildren, that this little field elf is sat there nonchalantly minding his own business. He's probably not even aware that we're walking past, and he's sat there and he looks to have something that holds a book or something in front of him. He's doing something. He's a little device in front of him there, and sat to his left, or his right, our left, are I think about half a dozen more. Not so distinct, not so clear, but you can see his pointed ears and his beard and his hat and his arm and his hand. Looks like he's holding a book. These little entities exist. Elves, she, the fairies, gnomes, and they come in all different sizes, wear all different clothes, and they are living just as we are living. They're living alongside us. We just don't get to see them, which is probably just as well, if you think about the kind of people we have in our societies today. Some really good people, really gracious and loving souls, but we've also got the opposite. See, you can capture these little flying things. Who knows what they are? People will say, well, it's just a little insect. That's all it is. Yeah, it's a good explanation. And who knows? But, you see, at no point in the flight of this little thing does it take the shape of an insect or any recognizable creature. And it's pure white from start to finish, and it takes a strange shape. It has perfectly horizontal, almost like wings or arms or whatever, protruding. It's not an insect. No insect looks anything like this little creature. What is it? But hey, they're common. Take your camera out on a nice sunny day, leave it rolling and see what you get. But you see, you must first learn to see and not just look. And of course, hear and not just listen. And you've got to pay attention to your pictures and your videos. Rather than just sit there looking at them, see what's actually in front of you. Take notice. Slow the videos down. Zoom in. Have a good look. This is a strange one. And you'll see it flying across quite quickly from left to right. What looks a rather small creature from where we're sat. This is in Edinburgh, and it's flicking across there. It's moving at a fair rate of knots. What is it? People will say, once again, well, it's just an insect. Don't get too excited. Don't read more into it. Well, I think we need to have a closer look. Because if we have insects in this country that look like this and are, of course, of this size, I'm going to emigrate. Because this is quite a big, dare I say, creature. It's quite a big thing. And once again, it takes some pretty unusual shapes as it descends down to the ground. Some of the time, it looks like a small humanoid. And, you know, we don't have insects that fly like this. They just don't. This is extremely weird looking. When I posted this some years ago on social media, somebody responded claiming that it was some giant tiger moth or something like that from somewhere in South America or Asia or wherever it was. And I said, but this was quite a cool day in Scotland. We don't have insects like this in Scotland. Okay, then no, we don't. It morphs and twists. It's altogether one strange looking creature. You see, up against the obelisk, and we can only compare it to that, it's just too big. It's a big thing. When it gets to the ground, it seems to just, well, dissipate, disappear. Takes on the shape of this. It's almost like a child's balsa wood aeroplane, a little plane. Very strange indeed. And again, you can capture these yourself. You just need to be attentive, and these things take time. You've got to be prepared to put the time in to examine your pictures and your videos, because they're there. Look and thou shalt see, listen and thou shalt hear. Now, RAF Church Fenton, through the years, has been the home of bombers and fighters during the Second World War. It's been a training base. And of course, it's lost a lot of young men, not just in wartime, but in peacetime too. Flying accidents. It's now, well, long gone as an RAF station. It's now Leeds East Airport. These accommodation blocks have gone now. When I was there taking the pictures, they were completely derelict. And I wandered on and took lots of pictures, and there were some very interesting results. Through the long grass and the weeds, keeping one eye out for security, because I wasn't sure whether I should have been there or not. I didn't go into any of the buildings. I thought they were way too unsafe, dangerous to go wandering around inside. But, well, I didn't have to. We had more time. We could inspect these windows because there's people looking out. People in spirit are not much different to us, really. They get bored and they look out of windows and they watch the world go by. In this end window here we can see an image of a young man, a young flyer, staring intently out to his right, probably looking for me, because he knew what I was doing. They know what I do. I do it all the time. And he's looking out. And so, for those who can't see the young man, I just drawed this line around him. I think he may have ginger hair. Somebody will know who he is. I think he's a flyer. And I think that because he appears to have around his neck this type of life jacket. And it looks like the dark green version, which I think puts him in the 1960s to 1990 bracket. And that was quite a surprise, actually, when I researched aircrew deaths at Church Fenton, just how many young lads had gone down as a result of flying accidents, training missions over the moors and the Lake District and the Scottish Highlands and so on. It's really tragic, that these things occur. But someone may remember this young man. He's pretty clear. Sad. Remember to examine all of your pictures. This is in the north of England. It's somewhere you take your children. It's the Forbidden Corner, I think it's called. And I was just looking through my photographs like I normally do. I inspect them very, very closely. And I came across what appears to be someone hanging from a tree. He doesn't appear to be hanging by the neck. He's almost hanging from something on his back. And I thought, is this air crew? Has this man jumped out of a plane during the war and was left hanging and expired? Died of injuries, starved, I don't know, because at that time this would have been very remote. The Battle of Naseby was one of the most important battles of the English Civil War. Naseby marked the total defeat of the King's army, and Parliament would win the war 6 months later. In the battle, 1,000 royalist soldiers died and about 150 parliamentarians. This picture shows the spot where the two sides met in the bottom of the valley, roughly where the hedge runs from right to left across the field. The royalists rushed down the far side of the valley and met the parliamentarians rushing down from this side. This image will give you an opportunity to see whether or not you're able to notice, to pick out the spirits of soldiers still standing on the field at Naseby. It might take a little time and a little bit of adjusting, but here they stand and sit. They are wearing the traditional woolen knitted hats of the period. One of them in the centre is actually sitting on either a wall or a fence that is long since gone. Standing next to that person is another figure that is turned to their left and looking up at the man on the wall. On the right hand side there is a man that is standing with something in his hands, looking at both of them. If you pay attention to this image, there are other figures standing and sitting. But I've told you about the clearest three. But see if you can spot not just them, but the other people. And that's what they are. People in spirit that are on Naseby today. German war cemetery at Cannock Chase in Stafford. This is a beautiful place, by the way. Thousands of German servicemen that died in both World Wars, in the seas around Britain, or the skies, or in hospitals, or in prisoner of war camps, are buried at Cannock Chase, as well as in a lot of other places around the UK, but a lot of them were gathered up and brought here. And I visit reasonably regularly, and I captured on this day a very wonderful image. There is a German soldier standing at the entrance. So this is where visitors enter the cemetery, and he's standing there in his uniform, and you can see his helmet, and you can see the gas canister over his back, gas mask holder, and the pouches around his waist, and there's a person standing in front of him, a visitor, and she can't see him clearly. He's probably saying to her, "Hey, I'm here, it's me, your grandfather," or whatever. So she could have been a German visitor to the cemetery, and this is the person that she's visiting, standing right in front of her in full uniform. Wow. EVPs, electronic voice phenomena. Listen to this. This is at the Elvington Air Museum in Yorkshire. And now, the Ghost Box, the radio. Did you know my name? Clive, yeah. I told you that earlier. Clive, yeah. I told you that earlier. Who's this?
Oh.
It's Wales, yeah.
Wow.
Who's this?
Oh.
It's Wales, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. What's her first name though? You probably said it, but it's so short that you took the first bit off. Tell me what her first name is.
K. Angela K.
Wow. Hey.
K. Angela K.
Wow. Hey. The Ghost Box, or Spirit Box, or Spirit Radio. These devices are used to communicate with those through the veil. This example that I'm using on these recordings is a hacked Radio Shack 12-587. There are devices that are specially made as ghost boxes. One such example is the S-Box. There's the PSB-7 and the bigger version, the better version, the PSB-11. Those on the other side can communicate with us through these devices, and they sound just as they did when they were here in the physical form, which makes one wonder, question the use of the larynx and the mouth, the roof of the mouth, and so on, for the creation of words. It seems to make no difference at all once you die and enter the next world. That previous video was where the lady in question didn't believe a word of it. In fact, she thought I was losing my mind, until her family on the other side shouted out her name and her middle name that is never used, never recorded, never written, and never spoken, and yet they shouted it out. This was a timely reminder and an example of the spirit world, giving us proof that just sits a little bit outside of what you'd expect. You'd expect the first name, maybe the family name, but they deliberately shouted out the middle name, knowing that, well, who'd know that? They even shouted out, if you listen carefully, a nickname. My father was there, Bob, probably overseeing the proceedings. Yeah. This next recording is in the Castle Keep, situated in Newcastle in the north of England. Now, the Most Haunted TV programme had already visited this location, and, well, they got very little apart from knocks and bangs and the normal creaks and groans and play acting. They film in the dark, don't they? And they make it sound as though it's all scary stuff. They make it look as though everything needs to be dark, as though the spirit world only interacts with our world at night, when it's dark. I went in the middle of the day. I was the only visitor in the castle. There was one other person, and he was sitting in a little office collecting the entrance fee as people came in. I had the run of the castle to myself for close to an hour before the next person came in, and I got some amazing stuff. Oh boy.
Please, who's here at the moment? Spirit? Tell me your name. At the moment? Spirit? Tell me your name. At the moment? Spirit? Tell me your name. Well, so anyone in spirit? Good morning to you.
Here is Martin. Now, Martin has communicated with me on several occasions throughout the length and breadth of this country, from Portsmouth to Glasgow and a couple of places in between. So there was a time when he would wait for me to turn the radio on, just to say hi.
Did you say Martin? Hi, Martin.
Well, spirits have thought of me as a ghost. I've heard them say, it's a ghost. Now, it's God, apparently. I'm grateful for the promotion, but it does give you some idea of the state of confusion that must exist amongst those that are in spirit on this earthly plane. I noticed a hole through one of the walls and decided to put the camera up against it and film through it. You can clearly hear a woman moaning, and it's a moan that suggests suffering. This is a voice from the dim and distant past. For the first time, we hear Philip. This is a young boy, resident in the castle. We'll hear from him again in a little while. You go into a toilet, or in this case the medieval Middle Age equivalent, which is the guardrobe. You have to make sure that there's not somebody already in there using it. Can't see them, of course. There's no lock on the door. And if you go in there with a 21st century camera, just be careful that you're not intruding on somebody. Because, well, they don't like it.
Toilet. Good morning. Hiya. 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 Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning.
This is a lady shouting out Dave, of course, quite clear, and Hardy. Now Hardy is obviously the H that appears on that object. At least I think it must be, don't you?
Hardy? Hardy? Hardy?
This gentleman reminds me that I'm looking at a lid. He said, "It's a lid." Well, it's a coffin lid. It's quite right, of course, but I'd already figured that out. There are some in spirit who like what I do and encourage it. And there are some that, well, consider me to be, well, a pest and worse.
Who's here at the moment? From
Here we hear Philip again. It appears that his father shouts him down for his tea. "Philip, come and get your tea." Now I hear this interaction and question whether or not I'd heard the name Philip. Philip himself says, "Here." Now, at this, his father is unhappy. He doesn't want his son, Philip, interacting with me. Remember, I'm alive, and he is deceased on the other side. He's living, but not on the same plane as me. Now, I don't know how much Philip understands about his situation. He sounds like a rather young boy. Maybe he's not aware that he's dead. I don't know, but his father reacts very angrily.
hello. Did somebody say Philip?
to them. To them. To them.
Here I am in a park in London, not far from Euston Station, and I'm wandering around during my lunch break with the camcorder rolling, hoping to pick up something, a rod perhaps, orbs, even in daylight, spirit activity. And when I was reviewing the footage later in the day, I noticed that there was something moving, something moved across the screen, and when I replayed it, I couldn't see it. I replayed it again and again, I still couldn't see it, but I was sure that upon initial reviewing, I saw it. So I meticulously trawled through the footage frame by frame, and eventually I found it. Now this strange looking rod only appeared on one frame. It's a very peculiar looking thing. It's probably about 4 foot long. It's got what look like limbs, legs, arms, with claws running down its back. It's got large backward facing barbs. So in whatever dimension this creature lives, it has predators that want to devour it.
Greetings, good day, good afternoon to anyone here in spirit today. Here's hoping that you are all happy and rested and well. Hello. What's the lady's name? The lady that said hello, hello Mom. I heard you. Hi, is she still around? 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 Hello? So, have we got any more names? Would everybody like to give themselves a shout out? Tell me their names. I am recording it on this little device here. Okay.
That was in Parliament Square in London on a nice hot summer's day a few years ago. There you heard the voices of ladies from, it sounds to me like the Edwardian and possibly Victorian era. When you've been doing this for a while, you get used to the different tonal qualities of voices from long ago. The clarity and the tone of the voice betrays the time, the age that they came from. The next recording is one that was recorded on the pier at Whitby, a seaside resort in England, at night, in the dark, as you can see. I play it through normal speed first and then cut it in half, 50% speed, and then you get to hear it a little more clearly. When I asked for a name, one of the men said what we thought at the time was, what's her name? Because my wife was there. In fact, listening to it later on, it turns out what he said was, what? Surname? He was asking me whether I wanted his Christian name or his surname. A simple and easy mistake to make. These sound like men from the Victorian era, probably old fisher folk that were very, well, prevalent, I suppose, prominent in that area. But an interesting recording, nonetheless. Hello. Hiya. Good evening to you. What's your name, sir?
clear. Hiya, sir, I heard you. Hello. Hiya. Good evening to you. What's your name, sir? Right, clear. Hiya, sir. I heard you. Sir, I heard you. Sir, I heard you.
What follows is another recording in London, this time in a London park. Again, very hot day, and we were sheltering from the heat under a tree, and we turned the radio on and got some rather dramatic results. One lady told us, "You've woke me up," because she was clearly napping in the park as well, in spirit. Another lady warns us, "Do not fly." Wow. What do you do with advice like that? Another lady, clearly connected to me, possibly a guide or an ancestor, thanks the lady for warning me. She told her he wants to fly. Thanks for telling him. Wow.
Push off? Is that what you just said? Push off? Is that what you said, man? Is that what you said? Something else. Lovely. Push off? Is that what you just said? Push off? Is that what you said, man? Is that what you said? Something else. Lovely.
This recording, once again, in London, in a cemetery, at the grave of William Blake and his wife, Catherine. She died long ago, in 1830. And when I asked for William and Catherine, a man shouts, "Kath!" And she replies, "Here!" This is quite common when you ask for people in a cemetery. It's almost as though somebody is a kind of watchman watching over the grave or the cemetery itself, and they call out for these people, almost as if they're in the next room. It's a really strange phenomenon. I had it at the German war cemetery at Cannock Chase that I showed earlier. This time I asked for a German soldier. His first name, Rudolf, and I said, "Rudolf, if you're there." And a lady shouted, "Rudolf!" That is strange. One day when I turned the radio on, as soon as it fired up, a lady shouted, "Ken!" And Ken shouted, "I'm coming!" Just like he's in earshot, in another room, in the next garden. Ken, by the way, is my Uncle Ken, died in 1966, the brother of my father, who is generally around when I have the radio on. It's an interesting world. Hello. Hi. William Blake. Sir, if you're around, I can hear you. Or Catherine. Hello. 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 Hi. William Blake. Sir, if you're around, I can hear you.
or caffeine.
Yet more flying things now. We've already seen some examples of small creatures, entities. Now let's look at some that are, well, bigger. Some of them quite a bit bigger. Let's look at some rods too. Rods are described by the mainstream narrative and by science as, well, just little insects that are caught quite close to the camera and are moving so quickly that they appear on the film as a blur. The wings as a blur, the body as a blur, and they stretch out on the video. And that's what we're seeing. Well, you'll have to make your mind up about that. There's some shots taken via infrared at night. First one's rather interesting and is coming in from the top of the screen at a fair old rate of knots in a dead straight line. That ain't no insect. Rods can be very small, just a few inches long, and they're known to grow in size, if that's the right word, to hundreds of feet long. I've captured them passing behind clouds where one end of the rod appears at one end of the cloud, the main body is hidden behind the cloud, and then the tail end can be seen at the far end of the cloud. They are that long and they move incredibly fast. So fast, in fact, that if we could see them with the naked eye, we wouldn't be able to, because they are just too fast. It is like trying to catch sight of a speeding bullet. Now another example of a strange flying, well, rod. Here we are at Buxton in the Peak District. Now you'll notice the white disc-like object passing from left to right. But can you spot the long black rod passing from right to left at some considerable speed? This is what is known as a light ship. It's a disc, it has a dome top and a spinning or rotating central core or ring. They've been seen around the world, Central America, South America, and it sat in this position for about 40 minutes before disappearing. The odd thing about this was that a week later, whilst I was at work, I was stood peering out of the window, looking up at the sky, and there was another, or maybe the same one, again in roughly the same position, similar altitude, and there it sat until it disappeared. Very strange. someone told me that, well, this is just a bird. Ah, I get it. Yeah, I can understand why people might think that this is a bird. It's a bit high, isn't it? Plane is not low to the ground. It's well on its way to Spain, having taken off from Leeds and Bradford Airport. Well, if that's a bird, it's a frozen turkey from Asda. This is a good example where, when you observe the little bit of footage as the camera pans from right to left, you don't see anything. There's nothing to see. You only see what's there when you change the tonal qualities of the video itself. Because this rod is passing from right to left at the speed of a bullet, incredibly fast, but it blends into the cloud so you don't see it. This is a large object moving incredibly fast, but you don't see it until you work on the video, and then it jumps out at you. Then you can see it. Then you can zoom in on it. Then you can see it for what it is. Now, if you do this, if you record your environment, you will capture these rods. Now, there are different types, but this particular type appears to be a line of very small round objects that are linked together. And at the back it appears to have almost like a fish tail. It looks a bit like a torpedo, cross between a missile and a torpedo. But it's neither of those two things. This is a bit of video taken in the Yorkshire countryside. This is what I do. I park up anywhere, get the camera and tripod out and film. Leave it filming for half hour, and then later in the day trawl through all the footage, and this is the kind of thing you find. This is a Gavioli organ, very popular at the turn of the last century and on through the Edwardian period. What you'll see are very good examples of the smallest type of rod. These are often referred to as skyfish because at times they do resemble small fish. In fact, sometimes they look a little bit like very, very small sharks. They have what appear to be square-looking fins and even a barb on the back that appears to be made up of 3 white spheres. Very strange. But the mainstream narrative and science are wrong when they tell us that these are nothing more than ordinary insects. There's nothing unusual, unnatural, or abnormal about these little entities. They're just insects passing by the camera at some speed and therefore elongating, stretching out, blurring, and giving this strange effect. They are most certainly mistaken. a couple more interesting Ghostbox recordings done again at Highgate. I haven't included the one that featured Max Wall just because I can't put everything on this video. But here is an example of somebody having a bit of a prank, having a bit of a joke. And again, another example of somebody shouting. After that, well, we all remember Jeremy Beadle. And, well, you'll recognise his voice because on 2 occasions he answered the questions I asked him. He sounds in pretty good shape, and he says that he's fine, he's alright, and that's what we want to know. And I'm sure his family would love to know that Jeremy is okay, he's over there, and he's waiting for them. So this is another good example.
Liam McGuire. Hello, sir, if you're around. Humanist and writer. Hi, Liam, if you're around, sir. Hear you. Hi, Liam, if you're around, sir. Hear you. Hi, Liam, if you're around, sir. Hear you. I put humanist before writer, personally. Seems to be more important.
I couldn't get very close to Jeremy Beadle's grave, because if you look on the video you'll see 2 girls are actually sat on the side of the road there drawing a picture of it. So I thought I'd speak to him from where I was, and as you can hear, he answered.
Hello, Jeremy Beadle, are you around? 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 Hello, Jeremy. Hi, Jeremy.
No chance to organise.
How are you, Jeremy? How are you, sir? How are you, sir? How are you, sir?
2012 was the year that we saw the Olympic Games come to London, and there was lots of chatter about the possibility of it being subject to a false flag attack of some kind. We went to Highgate, and we're walking around Highgate Cemetery with the Ghostbox playing, and we picked up a really strange message about the games. The evil serpent just has the games to do.
There'll be a lot though, no 9 minutes. 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 A magpie and a squirrel. We'll be fighting out over the food. Yeah. There'll be a lot though, no 9 minutes. A magpie and a squirrel. They'll be fighting out over the food. Yeah. There'll be a lot there in over 9 minutes. A magpie and a squirrel. They'll be fighting out over the food.
On the last couple of occasions we went, I had commented on this particular stone. It's got 2 owls on it, and I rather liked it. I liked the simplicity of it, and I'd pass comment. This time, I passed comment again. I said, look, it's Robert Leonard, the guy with the 2 owls. Listen to what Robert says back. But not just that. There's what sounds like an old man says, camera. So he's telling the other spirits present, hey, he's got a camera. And listen carefully in the background as a woman shouts out, poisoned! This poor lady, who is probably from the Victorian era or the Edwardian era, based upon the age of the graves in Highgate. There are some more modern graves, but in the age of poisoning, we're probably going back some years. This lady is trapped because you can figure out that she's still here, she's still hanging around because she's been poisoned, and she wants to tell us, hey, I've been poisoned, I'm not happy about this. And because time literally stands still on the other side, it's linear, she doesn't get a feeling of time passing. So as far as she's concerned, it's just happened. And she wants somebody to do something about it. Now, her poisoner has probably long gone, he's moved on, or he's somewhere else on the earth plane. But she's letting us know, she's letting me know, I've been poisoned. Please do something about it. Help me to bring this person to justice. And you see, it's those kind of feelings that lead to people being held here and unable to ascend. It's tragic, really.
Robert Leonard, that's a guy with the 2 owls. It was the last time on the phone. I like it, just a very basic gravestones these people have. That's what I like about them. Robert Leonard, that's a guy with the 2 owls. It was the last time on the phone. I like it, just a very basic gravestones these people have. That's what I like about them. Leonard, that's a guy with the 2 owls. It's the last time on the phone. Very basic gravestones these people have. That's what I like about them. Robert Leonard, that's a guy with the 2 owls. It's the last time on the phone. I like it, it's very basic gravestones these people have. That's what I like about them.
Now, Marston Moor was the biggest of the Civil War battles. Took place between the village of Long Marston and Tockwiffe near York, and it left, some say, 5,000 dead left buried on the moor itself in various pits, burial pits. There is an estimation that probably another 3,000 died trying to flee from the scene to seek refuge in the city of York, and also of course those that died of their injuries, because there was no antibiotics and no first aid available at the scene, so many of them died in terrible circumstances, and a lot of these men and boys are still left wandering the moor in spirit. This is one example. This is a cavalier officer who is hovering, floating just above the ground, maybe a foot above the ground. His feet are pointing downwards, and you can see his boots, you can see his beard and his moustache, and of course his sword and his big ruff, the lace shoulder coverings and so on. He's very clear. Well, to say he died in 1644 is incredibly still clear and opaque and, well, alive, and here he is. Finally, what you're about to see is a very good example of what is more commonly known as a grey, or a grey alien, sometimes called watchers or tricksters. This one was filmed inside a building in a city. There was no flying saucer, no trace of any means of transportation to get this rather strange looking creature to where I was able to photograph it. This building is known for its ghostly activity. This entity is clearly trying not to be seen, but as I took the picture with a zoom lens, it couldn't escape in time before I'd captured it on film. So greys are not really grey. Of all the examples that I've captured, somewhere around about half a dozen, they are in fact white, off-white, creamy white. They don't always have black almond-shaped eyes, nor do I believe that they are travelling here in some flying machine from a distant planet. In fact, these are not extraterrestrials, but interdimensional creatures, passing from one dimension through a portal to another, ours. What are they doing? Why are they here? These are questions I can't answer. I can only confirm that they are here. Are our governments interacting with them? Are they having any influence on policy, on world affairs, on globalism? I don't know. If you remember, Ronald Reagan commented several times in speeches about the need for the world to unite should we ever be invaded by aliens. This, of course, is to promote the idea of globalism, to abolishing national and individual sovereignty, borders, and to create this global one world order, a borderless melting pot of dumbed down and enslaved humanity. I think I've just about covered it. So the idea that we face an external threat from another race of intergalactic beings will, I'm sure, be used in the future to bring about a new world order. Well, if ever the sky is awash with flying saucers and other craft, you can be sure that they are not from outer space. They are from Earth, from America, from some base in the Nevada desert or elsewhere. The other craft we see are spiritual in nature. They're not physical flying craft. Anything that is metallic, anything that smacks of an earthly origin, does indeed have an earthly origin. We are not going to be attacked by aliens from another planet. We are in much more danger from our own aliens here on Earth, human ones. Now, I don't know what these greys and the reticulans and so forth are doing. Are they observing us? Are they influencing world affairs? I don't know. All I can tell you is they are here. Make no mistake. This one has 2 small holes for nostrils, a large mushroom-shaped head, a hole for an ear, and orange eyes. They are here. Doubt it not.